All right, good afternoon, ladies. This is Adeline with Scrap and Sew, and today's lesson is designing with decorative stitches. And what you see on the screen right now is a project that I made several years ago off of Craftsy. I watched the video. This is the precursor to what we're doing today all over the internet. And she had a book, and I bought the book. And this was the first time that I actually heard about making a stitch book. And I do want to talk about making a stitch book today. I'm not a big fan of it at the moment because it's a lot of work. We have over 800 stitches that are on our machine. And I might make some samples of the new stitches, but I'm not interested in making a sample book of every stitch on the machine. But what you have here is a lot of not only hand stitching, but this is hand stitching right here. And then I have couching with decorative stitches, couching with rat tail cord, with yarns. This is a variegated thread right here. This is that ball stitch that we have. This is couching on ribbon, just a lot of different, this is a single stitch, and then on top of that single stitch, let me see if I can zoom in. On top of that single stitch, you can see I did a candlewick stitch or French knots. And then up here I added beads. It was a lot of fun. And that was back when I had the time to play around with a machine. And as I said, I thought I'd teach the class, so I offered it, and not one person signed up. So I hang it in my sewing room here, and it's good enough for me to look at every now and then. But I do think that maybe sometime it would be very cool to do a class like that, I think. I don't know if anybody's be interested in it or not, but it's possible. Okay, so as we work through the lesson today, it's a 2-hour lesson. I may have technical troubles. I had some again this afternoon, but I'm going to cross my fingers that I'm good to go right here. Because for the last part of the class, I was able to record everything without too many problems. So let me shut the door so that my husband's TV baseball game we won't have to listen to. Okay, now I know many of you have played with decorative stitches, but I don't think, and this is my opinion, but I don't think it's the focus of your machine. And I actually bought the 7570 for the decorative stitches because it was the first machine on the market in 1995 that had 9mm stitches. Plus, I love the maxi stitches, and I also loved the IDT, and it was the only machine on the market that had the IDT. So with that being said, I immediately fell in love with BOP, and even though I strayed one time, I came back because these decorative stitches are what I love. And a lot of times you can combine the different stitches with other stitches in the machine. For example, this was a project that we did a couple years ago. So what I did here, and let's see. What I did here is the radiant stitches. And if you remember, 2 months ago, we did a class on the radiant stitches. And then right here, I did cross stitching on top of that curved line. It also has floating stitches. And on our machine, we can take a stitch and we can triple it. And so it comes out when you sew it, it has a very bold look. And that's part of some of the lesson coming up, maybe. Anyhow, then the last part I wanted to show you was the ribbon stitches. And then this whole thing is embroidery. And because I was combining the two, and then what I did is I actually went back and did placement in embroidery with cross stitches. So that was that project. So many of you have seen a number of my projects. So they're all at the store. I didn't go get them. So I'll share, mainly pictures is what I'll share. All righty, so now let's take a look at page 1. That's a brand new page. And let me get my handout. Oh my, I don't know if I went and picked it up off the printer. Let me go see, hang on. Talk among yourselves. Fran, you're good with that.
What? Oops. I'm up.
All righty, I'm back. Okay. So with decorating or designing with decorative stitches, this is an example of something that I made using all decorative stitches, some hand stitches, no embroidery. And as you can see, you can create a beautiful project just by using fabric that will work with all of your colors. And of course, this batik does, and threads and yarns and trim, and then put it all together. So on our machine, we found in the class earlier today, we found a couple of things that are part of the new update. And that's always fun to find things like that when I'm not expecting them. So with designing with decorative stitches, I have another project or two here. And what I did is I combined some of the techniques from the quilt class that we had. And I'll show you what this is. Whoops, don't go that way, this way. All righty, can you all see that?
Yes.
Okay, all right, so what I have here is the hand quilting all the way around. This is my Jack Skellington. And I used the technique that I teach, in which you put the bobbin thread as a contrast color, and then you put the needle thread to match the top, the fabric on top. And that's what that technique was. But what I wanted to show you, and this one was featuring the circular attachment. How many of you have the circular attachment? 1, 2, no, Susan?
Nope.
Nope. I love it. That's my favorite. And
Never
I
used it.
You haven't used it?
No,
Oh.
never took it out of box because
No?
never seen it used.
Oh my. How about Polly? Do you have the circular attachment?
No, I don't.
Oh boy, I love it. I'll post some of the projects that I've made, and it makes a perfect circle. And I can teach a Zoom class with it too, so that some of you may need to get it out of the box, Miss Fran.
Oh, good.
Anyhow,
I even found me some beads.
you found what?
Some beads
Oh, beads. Where'd you find the beads?
on
Amazon?
Amazon. Yes,
Okay.
I
Cool.
got some green and gold, a green and red
Okay.
and white.
Great.
And I want to go back and get some purple.
Oh yeah, those are your colors for sure. All right, so what I did here is I used the circular attachment. Let me go get it. Let's see if I. No, Adeline, honestly. Never mind. Okay, I don't know where I put it. I'll find it. Anyhow, what I did is you set the circles and then you cut out the circle and then you use the stitches to cover up your edges, or you can leave them in raw edge applique. And why I wanted to show this is because, you know, we had 4th of July, now it's on to Halloween. And I'm a big Halloween fan. And what I have here is a way that I use the floating stitches. This is what I call the grass stitch, right here and right here. And then these are satin stitches that I used as a single design. Now this part of Jack is a bigger circle. And then I used a couple of different stitches for his nostrils and the floating stitches for his smile. And then I am one of those people that does not do binding by hand. And there's, if you were in the quilting, I forgot to show you guys this. This is the wonky stitch that's in stippling that I use to put on binding. I'm gonna have to add that in. Every time I do the class, I think of things that I missed that I need to add back in. Now, here's my boo, and I found this one on, I don't know, 80 Stitch, something, I can't remember her site, but what I basically did is I copied her design. She was okay with me teaching it too. I did ask her for permission. And what I did is I used floating stitches to piece these strips together. And then I have the hand look stitch, which you wouldn't think would be a decorative stitch, but I'm using it here as a decorative stitch. And these are applique. And what this is this is a period and this is a 1. And that's how I got that exclamation point. I used the fabric to my advantage and was able to put the bat right there in a perfect spot. But also these are all part of the applique creator. And we haven't done that yet either. So that's coming up. Then you can't really see it, but the binding is done with that wonky stitch again. It just isn't showing up very well. Okay, so those are a couple of ideas how to use decorative stitches. And then
Now, is that a wall hanging or is that a placemat?
no, this is all hanging. See? Can you see that?
Yes, that's pretty.
Okay. So let me see if I can move this across the top. No, let's see. Okay. All righty. Now, I don't know if there's, okay, I'm good. We'll just leave it back here where I found it. Oh, there it is on the bottom. Okay, that way I can see all of you. Okay, now, except for me.
Yeah.
Okay, there I am. Okay, so this is just a wall hanging that I hang somewhere in the house. I find an empty wall somewhere. There are not many in my house. So I thought I sent you the directions for this little pin cushion. Did I send you those directions?
Yes. Yes.
No,
Not the same stitches, but yes.
yeah, I made my own stitches. I mixed it up a bit. But what I was going to say to you is the directions were for the icon. But I thought maybe you guys could figure it out enough that you could make one using the icon too. But
Okay.
that was a project. This was going to be a project as a make and take type of project for the expo during COVID that didn't work out. So that's how I have that. Okay, all righty. Now, let's go to the handout, Designing with Decorative Stitches. So for your sample, now, again, you can just watch the lesson and then go back on your own time, whenever you get the opportunity to do so, and do the exercises. So you will need a piece of fabric, let's see, 6 by 6. Hang on. 6 by 6. And I put stabilizer on the back. I did iron-on stabilizer. But the point is you have to have some kind of stabilizer. Otherwise, your stitches, when you sew them out, they will tunnel. And that means they pull down and you'll have like a little poofiness where the stitch is distorted. So basically what you're going to do, and I'm going to try and move this so I can sew, and okay, don't look, don't look. So I'm going to try and do this so I can sew without being, without having the iPad in my way. So what I want you to do, most of you know about the decorative stitches, but I'm just going to go over a few things with you. And we'll spend more time on the other topics. So with the decorative stitches, it starts here. And the quilt category, crazy patch stitches, right? Let me get my pointer pen. And so you have a number of these crazy patch stitches. A little story about that is there was a group of us, including educators, that designed some of these crazy patch stitches, and FOF got wind of it, and they actually added them onto the machine. The first time was on a little card, and then it was part of the update, and then from then on, they just started incorporating them into their stitches. But that's what we did. We took a crazy patch book and we plotted them. There was this little gizmo, the Creative Designer it was called, and you could plot the stitches. It looks like basically what it was Stitch Creator in a little box with a slider thing. It was very cool. I don't even know.
That was a long time ago.
Yeah, did anybody have one? Do you know what I'm
I
talking about?
had one.
Uh-huh. Yeah, that was a long time ago. You're right.
That was a long time ago.
Long time ago. Okay, so that's some of them. Then if you go into needle art has cross stitches, and you saw a sample of my cross stitches in that one example. And then these are the needlework stitches. And if you took the sachet class, then we used, I think it was number 7. I'm trying to remember if we used number 7. Here's my sample from the class. So let me get this. I have a little blackboard here that things will show up a little bit better. Okay. I'll back up a little bit too. Okay, so right here is an entre-deux stitch. And these stitches in the needle art heirloom stitch category are made with, our recommend to use a wing needle. So if you select this and then you go to information, it tells you that's entre-deux decorative heirloom stitch when using a wing needle. Maximum stitch width is 8.
Oh.
Okay.
Oh.
Bless you. Now, stitches 15 through 21. 15 through 21 are actually smocking stitches. And what these came from is the Viking. These were never on a Pfaff machine. These came from the Viking. And I have a pleater. Does anybody else have a pleater? No?
I think I do. It's been so long since I've used one.
I would guess you would, yes. What you do is you actually pleat your fabric and then you go over the stitches with a decorative stitches. And if I had the sense, I would have pulled out my magazine to show you my sample, but that didn't happen. All right, now next one is all the antique hand embroidery stitches. These stitch out beautifully because they go back and forth on each other on top, so they build up the design. And so I'm going to stitch out a few of these as we go along today. And then 3.4, these are all the maxi hand embroidery stitches. These are all new. These are the stitches that were added with this machine. Then you go into the satin screen and you have scalloped edges galore. And we use these a lot. You see this on some of my projects. You know what? The next time I teach this class, I'm going to go dig out some of my oldies but goodies, because you'll see a lot of these are on my older projects. We used number 25 when we did that bag, and a few of you took the class, that zippered bag, where we combined some different project or different techniques on it.
Yes.
That was from this one. And then 42, these are the satin elements. And so when I mentioned the Jack Skellington, this is what I used as eyes for the one of them. And then this is, I think this was the other one. I can't remember if it was 2 or 8 or 0. I don't know, it was oval. It was the oval, so that was 7, probably 7. And we're going to do that as an activity too, because there are some parts to the edit that are hidden behind. And so I want to make sure I go over that today. Then the last one are the borders. And these look great if you use consecutive, like stacking stitches, if you will. And those look wonderful for that. But more importantly, they look great. Some of these look great when they're tapered. And that's part of the lesson tonight too, as well. Next one over are the decorative stitches. And these are the leaves and flowers and all kinds of decorative little tulips. And this one we use a lot as grapes. So they were just fun stitches. Whoops, go back. And then 5.2, these are the art stitches. So you get a feeling, right, that we have a lot of stitches, and this is why I'm not a big fan of making a stitch book. All I would do would be sewing stitches. And then the ornamental stitches, I have used, I should say, a number of those. And this is probably, I used more before we had embroidery. I'm certain of it. And then these are the maxi stitches. Now, you know what? I could go get something really quick, maybe. Then there's miscellaneous stitches. And in the miscellaneous, we have bows and hearts. 6.2, we have animals. These little spider things, these little spider things are very cute for Halloween. And I combined them in different projects. And then turtles and, you know, there's my aunt.
That's what I was wondering.
There's my aunt.
There it is.
I was looking for an aunt not. Yeah, I was telling them in the other project or the other class. And then these are
I had to bought one.
and then these are the stick people. Those are so cute. If you could think of some way to put those together, a little kite, balloon. Those look like little feet, feathers, stars. There are ways to use them because you can bring the stitches into the embroidery side of the machine. Okay.
Oh.
Does anybody have any questions so far?
Oh.
Nope. Okay. All right, let's talk about satin stitches.
Okay.
So, all righty, I'm gonna start down here first. So, what I'm
Getting
going to,
dark here.
say that again?
I said, it's getting dark here.
Uh-oh,
Thunder.
you're having a storm now, huh?
Well, I had the noise, but it doesn't sound like any rain or anything yet.
Yeah. You know, I didn't get any rain when that storm was going through earlier today. It didn't rain. It just was thundering, making noise, like you said.
Oh,
So-
no, that's not the case over here.
No?
No. I unplugged my machine and left my computer on
Oh.
because it cracked and it sounded like it hit my air conditioner, but it didn't. But I mean, it was that kind of a crack.
Oh, that makes
We
that
had
hurt.
wind and sheets and sheets of rain.
Oh,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
it's, it's just amazing. If you've lived in Florida long enough, then you know that it could rain across the street and not at your house. So it's just bizarre.
It
So,
was doing that at the clubhouse the other night.
yeah.
It
So
was raining. We was watching it in the pool. Then we
Oh.
turned around and looked out the front window. There was nothing. It took about 5 minutes for it to even start sprinkling over in the front.
So
Wow.
Susan, where are you from?
I live right outside Boise, Idaho.
Oh my.
Oh,
Well,
wow.
you have some nasty weather too.
It's not bad. I'm in the southwest corner of Idaho. The
Uh-huh.
nasty weather is in eastern Idaho,
Oh, okay.
not here.
Oh, that's good. How about Polly? Where do you live, Polly?
Oh, she's muted.
Oh, here.
Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Oh, you get nasty storms too then, huh?
I do, yes.
Have
It's
you
just hot today.
just hot? What's your temperature?
I haven't looked, but it was supposed to get over 100.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Everybody all over the country is complaining about it. Texas, I guess, is terribly hot. So,
It's 101.
oh gosh. So we stay indoors, right?
Yes, we do.
Good
All
time
right.
to sew.
Yes.
Yeah, more time to sew. You're right. So with the directions, it says select stitch number 4.2 right there, 0.6 satin elements. And I want you to note the foot recommendation is 2A rather. And then there's no dual feed and stabilizer. So that, remember when we talked about this earlier, this screen here, the recommendations and the information gives you, the information gives you the number of the stitch, 4.2.6, and then it shows you the foot that you have attached. So right now I have the 0A foot, and this is the 0A foot. Let's see if I can find, there we go. See the 0A? So it has a opening down the center of the machine. I mean the foot, sorry. And then 2A, I guess I cleaned up. I put it away. Or no, 2A, where did I put it? Oh, here it is. So this is 2A. Let me just move this here. All righty.
We froze up again, I think.
I'm gonna wait and see if it comes back. As I was doing that too. I don't think so. Things are going so well. All right, so I'm going to pause record. So what I have here are the feet. And this is 0A and 2A. 1A, let me see if I can put them up here where you can see. Okay. 0A has a cut or an opening down the center. You'll notice that it has, the back is able to use the dual feed, that little back cutout.
Yes.
And it has marks to the left and right of center. 1A has an asymmetrical opening. In other words, it's open on the left, and then there's a mark on the center that you use for alignment. And then, of course, the dual feed. 2A has the marks on both sides of the 9mm stitch, and then in the center where the needle position is. Okay? And no dual feed. More importantly, if you look at the back, this one, 2A, has a channel, a 9mm channel. And why that's important is because the stitches will stitch forward, backwards, to the left, and you don't want to be hindered by the dual feed. So that's why you turn it off. So we're going to put that on. Whereas the 1A does have a channel, but it's not a very wide channel, and it's used for some of the zigzag stitches. And then 0A doesn't have any type of a channel. It just has a little indentation where that straight stitch will just lay flat right through there. Okay, so let's go back to where we were working on. And we're going to go to the stitch, and I'm going to call up the stitch. Now, interesting, when you hit information, it just says it's a decorative satin stitch, nothing else, no other information. So I'm just going to long hold and then close that. And there's our little satin balls. Now, what you can do is you can actually take these balls into Stitch Creator and take out the connecting stitches and use them as a single stitch. They would make great ladybug spots, eyeballs. They make great eyeballs on a project. So you just have to think of other ways that you could use these. We're going to go into the Edit Stitch screen, and you'll notice with the Edit Stitch screen that you have little white balls below that. I don't know how to, it's a slider. And what this is this is the width. And so we have 9mm across the center of the ball. And then when I slide that slider over, the position is grayed out. Now the position is grayed out because there's no room to move the needle left or right. So if I go back over, let me do this. And now I change the width and make the width 6.0 and slide that back over. Now you can see it's no longer grayed out. There's room for the needle to swing over if you want to move it to the left, say, or to the right. Okay, that's the needle position. So I'm just going to going back to 9mm. And see, what I'm doing is messing. What happens is if you don't get it right on that little ball, it goes back to the needle position. So now, because I have it on a needle position, it will not, I move the needle position, it will not let me make it any larger. Did you hear that beeping noise that says it's too big? So what I have to do is go back and take this back to 0. Now go back to stitch width. And now I can bring it back up to 9 millimeters. Does anyone ever played with this down here? Is that kind of new to you? Kind of new? Yes? Somebody respond. Did you hear? Am I talking?
Yes.
Okay, all right, thank you. I didn't, for some reason, I didn't hear anything and I was getting nervous. All righty, now the same thing goes with the length. If you tap on the length, a density screen pops up. And the density is the difference between the stitches as they fill up that little ball. In other words, if I go down, it's making the stitches closer together. If I go up and increase it, see how it's making them further apart? Look at how far apart they are. So you could create a whole new stitch by just playing with that density. So what I like to do is I like to stitch it out for comparison. And as set by machine, which is right, let's see what it looks like when you stitch it out. Now, one of the things I'm going to show you, wait, do you see this? Woohoo! I'm going to turn on the projection. And I am going to turn on the background color. Now, watch carefully. Ta-da, ta-da. I think that's part of the update. Let me turn this light off.
I'm gonna check that out.
I know, it lights up the whole area. So not only do you see the blue down here, but it's lighting
Everything.
Yeah, and I think that's with the new update. So now I'm going to change it to green. Where do you see green? Whoa! It looks very Halloween-like. But typically I use black, which is no color at all. So let me do that. There we go. So now there's no color. Now I'm also going to turn off the grid. And then I'm going to just close this down. All right. Okay. Now what you can, oops, I tapped the grid again. There. Okay, now you can see that I have two projected lines here. One has the stitch in it, and the other one has a parallel line, which is what we did today earlier in the class. So I'm going to turn off stitch number 2, stitch guide 2. And now you can see just that stitch. So if I try to just start stitching, let's see what results I get. All right, here we go. Let me turn this speed up a little bit. Now, what you are seeing is that channel is going up and over that satin ball. Now, one of the things, if you stop the machine by tapping the pattern begin, what it does is it finishes the stitch. You can lower your needle and you can turn especially using the projector, and make a perfect corner. Now, one of the things I want to show you is, see these lines right here on the side? Those lines are used to make sure you're straight, creating a 90-degree angle. And so now I'm going to continue with my stitching. And I can put a guide on here if I wanted to, so that I can sew it straight. Now, if you hit the scissors, what it will do is it will finish your sequence, tie off, and cut. So that's the difference between pattern restart and the scissors. So this is the scissors. This is what I like to do. I like to mark it. So I put my little scissors here like this. I'm gonna move you guys from the bottom of my screen to up here, hopefully. There. So I can make sure that you can see what I'm doing. So this is where I tap the scissors, and it was a tie off here, and then it cut. This was just the pattern start like this. And then you could have added one more stitch in there if you wanted a better corner, right, like that. But that's the difference between those two. Okay, that's part of that. That's one of the things I wanted to include with this decorative stitches lesson.
Also, during the last thing, then we can do a stitch repeat.
Yeah.
Or we start over.
Yes, yes,
Okay,
yeah, without cutting and without tying off.
yes.
Mm-hmm. Yep. All right,
Okay.
and it lights up the button down there too. This
Oh,
one, see,
okay.
if I hit this while I'm sewing, it'll light up that button. That's what that is. Pattern, see, that's pattern end. And then this is the permanent reverse. Okay?
Yeah.
All right. Now what I call this is as set by machine. So if you ever see that acronym in the directions, that means as set by machine. We used to use that all the time back in the day, but
I knew what it was.
you know, it was great. See, we go way back, huh, Fran? Now, what I want to do is I want to show you how the density will work and the difference. So I'm sure you have a good understanding of that, but nonetheless, I'm going to just change the density a little bit. Let me get back further. So I'm going to go into length and then tighten up the density. So I'm going to take out, this is taking out and pushing together. This is separating them. All right, now let's see what this looks like over here. And we can start sewing. And then I'm hitting the scissors again. And it finishes it and cuts the thread. And look at how thick that stitch is, that little ball. That looks great. If that's what you want. If you want a big punch with it, that's what you would do. Now, okay. Now I'm going to go over stitch repeat, but I want to show you something too. I want to show you a little trick. That if you want a certain number of repeats, you're going to go down to stitch repeat and you're going to use single stitch program. Let me get this so you can see it. I'm running into the stand. I mean, I might have to get, sheesh. There we go. So now you can see I can start adding, whoops, let me highlight it. And now, see? So now I can actually create 3 stitches. And then I love doing this because then I don't have, it's a no-brainer. So what I can do is start stitching. And continue stitching the last one. And it just stops. So that's how you can use stitch repeat. Just like that. Doesn't that look beautiful? With a Floriani thread is just so shiny. It's got a high sheen and it makes the stitches just pop. Now, I haven't covered this particular category, but as long as I have single stitch program on and a set at 3, any other stitches I get are only going to come up to be 3. So if I go to, let's do this one. I like that one too. So now it turned it off. So I would have to turn it back on and get my 3 stitches. But what you see here, guys, and I'm going to show you what you see there, that is considered one sequence. This orange plus right there is where the needle goes down into your design and starts stitching. So be cognizant of where that needle goes down, then you'll be able to use the markings on the foot to line up. All right. Now, optional feet. If you go into number 9, under additional, number 9 is 28 different stitches. And to find out, let me take this off. To find out what these stitches are, the easiest way is to tap on the question mark and go into, let's do number 16. Number 16 is a beading stitch, and it's for sewing on pearls, beads, and it requires the optional beading foot part number right there. So it actually gives you the part number, then you can write it down, or better yet, you can go on to your accessory catalog in your machine. So with the new update, go into the Help Center. Does everybody see where I'm at?
Mm-hmm.
Go into Quick Start Guide, go into Setup Machine, and you will see the new QR codes for the voice control. And what you do is you use on your phone, you have a QR scanner and you take a picture of it and it will open up the manual, in this case, for the user instructions. And this one is the updated commands list. I haven't done that one yet, but I opened up this one. In the accessory guide, when you open that up, it goes to that QR code. Let me see if I can get in here. And I'm going to find my QR code. let's see. And going live for paint night. No. Okay. All right. So I'm going to go in here and it's going to open it up. And it takes you right into the accessories catalog. Isn't that cool? Now I know some of you bought the catalog, you wanted the paper catalog, but this is if you're looking something up real quick now, and you can use the catalog to find whatever you want. So you can use drop down menu to print it off or look for something, that sort of thing. I haven't played with it enough to know how to use it yet, but I'm sure it works just like some of the other online catalogs. A lot of the companies that I follow, not necessarily sewing, but other hobbies are going to online catalogs. And what you do is you find the picture of what the design looks like, you click on it and it takes you automatically to a way to add it to your cart. And so it took us a while for our paperless society, but we're slowly getting there, I think. It just is, our generation's very reluctant for it because we like to have the book or the catalog or whatever in our hands. So
Yes.
that makes a difference for some of us baby boomers. Now I'm going to go back to where I was. And I'm going to go back to those additional stitches. So this one is a candle wicking. And that's another stitch that is that's back ordered.
Is there any other foot that will work with that stitch?
Yes, you can use an open toe because I'll show you, let me show you the candle wicking foot. As soon as I dig it out here. Oi, 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 where is it? It has an opening that allows the buildup of the stitches. Here it is. All right. So I'm going to put this right here on my, let me put it right there. Can you see that?
Yes.
Yeah, let me put it up here. Maybe you can see it. But see how that open
Yes.
is large? So you can substitute, let me see if I have the open toe or the star foot. Do you have the star foot? This is a
Yes.
star foot.
Yeah.
Would work. Just so you
That would
have,
work for, okay.
yeah, just so you have an opening, the difference is again going to be that back. It's got a wider channel for the buildup of the candle wicking stitch.
We
Okay.
can also bring it into embroidery.
Yeah, you can. And a lot of us have done that because it actually makes a nice solid border or accent if you use that in embroidery. This one, I have no idea what this is for. So I'm going to tap on that. That's an edge finish and it requires the bi-level top stitch foot. So perhaps one of these days I'll do this one.
Number 18?
Yeah, number 18. Have any of you used that?
No.
No. So that might be something we do in another class.
That'd make a nice border.
Yes,
Yeah.
it would. Mm-hmm.
That would even be pretty on ribbon.
Yes, definitely. Just like I showed you on one of my ribbon couching that I did on that sampler.
Yeah.
Now, the other category in 9.2 is the 4 direction stitches. And these are great for patches. And I can go, I'll do that at another time too, to show you how that works. These are the most neglected stitches in this machine.
I'm on Zoom. I'll call you back in a little while.
I don't think I haven't, the only time I use them, I'll be honest, is when I'm teaching the class to show you how to use a machine. Otherwise, I don't even think to use them. So I've got to readjust my thinking so I can figure out a way on how to use them. Okay, now, I was looking to see. The last one is how to do a stitch book. And many of you probably have followed Sarah Snuggergood, and she's got a nice little video on how she does the stitch book. And I was gonna look and see if I have a picture of one, of what I did. I only did one page. I couldn't handle it. It was
Well,
too,
I pulled some stitches into the embroidery, but I didn't like them. So I'm going to redo them. But I'm going to pull them into the embroidery and do them.
okay. Now, let me see if I can share a new screen. All righty. I want to show you a couple things. Okay, tell me what you see when it pops up.
Oh, a beautiful vase of flowers.
Yes, and this was in, I gave it to my mother for a gift, and it was my sister brought it with her to my dad's new place, the assisted living, and I looked at it and I thought, darn, I should do more of those. But if you look, you can see the different stitches. And what we did is we made them really small. We used them as a single stitch. This isn't very big. It's only about, I don't know, maybe 12 inches tall. And what I did then is I reduced the stitches and made them quite small and created this tablecloth.
That is beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you. And that vase right there, I colored it in with a colored pencil. I drew it and then colored it in. And
Actually, it looks like that you took a handkerchief, one of the old antique handkerchiefs, and that was the idea, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was supposed to be.
Well, you achieved it.
Yeah, thank you. All right, let's see if I can go to the next picture. All right, here's my stitch book. There it is. Don't blink.
Yeah, that's not bad.
Not bad. And
No.
well, there are the stitches, they're just not in this picture, of the maxi stitches. But what I wanted to show you, if you get ambitious enough, what you can do is cut the black fabric. I like the black fabric because it really makes it stunning, I think. Really, the stitches really pop.
What size did you use?
This is actually 6 by 10.
Okay.
And then what I did is I laid 3 separate pieces on top of, I used black tearaway stabilizer so I didn't have to tear it away and you wouldn't notice the white on the back. So I just used black. And then what you do is you thread your needle. And so you do pink first and you go to 5.1.1. Then you go to 5.2.1. And you just keep stitching down 5.3.1. Then you change your thread and do the same thing. And you use the edge of your foot to separate them. And that's how I got that. And then I added the stitches to label them. I used the alphabet and used it in Sequence Creator. Okay. Now here's another.
Which alphabet did you use?
That looks like the block alphabet, but I can't swear to it. All right, here's another idea I had. So I thought this would be a perfect thank you card. So I took, and I have a digital cutter, and some of you may too. So I cut the cardstock out with the word thank you in block letters, and I glued the white cardstock on top of a black piece of fabric. And then and then you can see the decorative stitches pop through. So I then added two little, I added a few stamps on there to make it look sewing-ish.
Very
And,
good.
and used it as I used the silhouette too. That's the silhouette in the back. And use that for the cutout. So that's that. All right, let's see if I have anything else to show you. No, the other things you've seen. All right, now let me close that and that one. All righty, now let's see, what am I still sharing? Let's see if my iPad is still being shared.
That must be your desktop.
Yeah, let's see if this. Those are my poppies. I gotta, here, something's a mess. Let's stop the share. Okay, let's start all over from the beginning. There we go. Okay, now, do you have any questions on the first page? Are we good?
No, we're good on that.
We're good? Okay. So the next page is the patchwork program, which I was unable to do as part of the quilting. I got a little overzealous here and tried to squeeze in too many things at once. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change my thread from polyester to Aurifil. And I'm going to select the utility screen and stitch number 1, because we're going to do the patchwork program first. All righty, let's see. Then I'm going to change my foot to the 1/4 inch. And engage the dual V. Now, where'd it go? Where'd it go? Ah, here it is. All righty. Can you see my little lemon table runner here? Am I full screen, ladies?
No,
Nope,
No, you're still small.
I'm still
Put
small.
it over in front of your screen.
Yep, I'm gonna do that.
you ready for your dinner, Brody?
Okay. All right, so do you see these patchwork?
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
These patchwork blocks, this table runner was, I saw a video on YouTube from Shabby Fabrics. And I thought, that's really cute. And it would be perfect for the quilting lesson. And we did earlier today, we did half square triangles using our projection. And then we're going to do the patchwork squares right now. I did all of these squares using the patchwork program. It works really great. Okay, so what I'm going to do now, I still have the projection on, and let's see if I can, I'm gonna do something a little different. I'm going to unplug my iPad. It should be charged enough. And I'm gonna move over here. Okay. And then that way I'll be able to sew. So what you're going to do is samples on the patchwork program said to use 2 squares of cotton print and 2.5 inches and then 2 solids. So there's my 2. And then here's my 2. Okay. All right. And when I go to the stitch repeat screen, which is right over here. Let's see if we can zoom in. So right here is the stitch repeat screen, and you'll see that it has 2 parts. The first part is the patchwork program, and the second part is the single stitch program. I'm going to select the patchwork program, and you will notice right away that a reverse symbol pops up. Okay. And I have the 1/4 inch foot attached, and then on the projection screen, I have stitch guide 1 selected. And let me just close this right down like that. And I don't have stitch guide 2. Let me open up stitch guide. There's stitch guide 1. And if you want, stitch guide 1 is 100 millimeters, which is about 4 inches. And if you want, you can darken it by changing the width to 8. Okay. Then if you want to create a parallel at 1/4 inch, parallel line, you can open up stitch guide number 2, turn it on, and now I have 100 millimeters for the length, 8, but you'll notice that I have a horizontal position of 6. And as far as I can remember, let's close this. As far as I can remember, this 0 is new. I don't remember that 0 being there, but you know, could have been, but I thought it was part of the new update. I don't know. Anyhow, now I have 2 lines to work with, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. Okay. So now I'm going to go over here to stitch repeat. So bear with me while I slide this over. And I'm going to place right sides together. I'm going to line this up. I wouldn't really need, wouldn't need my 1/4 inch foot if I use these. This is the line for the edge of my fabric. Can you guys see that? Is that?
Yes.
So this is the screen line is the raw edge of my fabric, and then this is where my stitching is going to show up. So I'm going to line this up. I'm going to put the needle right at the very beginning. And if you haven't realized it, there's an embossed line. In other words, there's a line here etched into that metal, and that's where your fabric should be past that as close to you can, because otherwise you don't have the advantage of the both dual feeds, front and back. All right, there. Now I'll go so it doesn't squawk at me. I'll go back and line it up. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to line that up. As I said, I'm going to lower my foot, and I'm going to sew With the patchwork program, I sew until I get down to this last part of your square, the bottom of that 2.5-inch square. So let me see if I can sew without making a mess. And when I get to the end, I am going to push the reverse. And you see how it pops up? Then I put the next two, turn this over. And you see how I have this green side up first, and now I have the white print up, and I keep sewing. And what it did is it counted the number of stitches and then when it stops and lifts up the foot, then you slide your next 2.5-inch pieces in. Okay? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
All right, now let's take a look at the screen. Now, if you look here at the screen, you'll see that with the patchwork program, it says there are now 28 stitches. If it was like one stitch too many, you could take off a stitch. If you needed one more stitch to get to the end, then you could add it on. But if you look at the screen, you have 28 stitches. So it's a pre-programmed stitch that you can continue to sew equal size pieces of fabric together, such as 2.5-inch squares, 3-inch squares, 4-inch squares, whatever you're doing with your patchwork at that point. This has been on the pop sewing machines since the 2140. If any of you had, that a machine that similar to that brand, similar to that model rather. Okay, is that new to any of you? Have you heard of that before?
Yes, I've used it.
Who's saying that?
Susan.
Oh, yay, Susan, woohoo! Because I don't often get a person who says they use it. Bravo to
Oh,
you.
yeah. Love it.
Yes, me too, and I've been using it since the 2140. Now, let's go back over here. And if I want to now sew all of these together, this is the example that I had. Okay. And then I have it this way, right? I can program it again to sew these two together. So what you would do is you would turn off the patchwork program. Actually, I want to show you something too. The patchwork program is used right here. The patchwork program is used to set the stitches, and then it converts it into the single stitch program because it's counted and it has 28 repetitions of that straight stitch. If you change the stitch length, you may have more than 28 or less than 28. It's based on how many stitches it takes to get to that end, whether it's 2.5, 2.6, 2.8, whatever. Okay, make sense? All right, so now I'm going to turn that off, go back to the patchwork program. That has reset it. And as you notice again, it has the reverse symbol at the top too. Did you know that you can tap this reverse symbol and that works with the reverse in the machine? Anybody know that?
No.
No,
Oh, yeah, I taught you something new.
there's
Woohoo!
something new today.
So when I go over here and I go to sew these together, I'll show you what I did with this one. I'll zoom out so you can all see. Okay, so what I do is I finger press my seam to one side. And then I open this up. This is why I stitch them the way that I do. And now I finger press this one to the other side. Make sense?
Yep.
Then I flip it like this. And I nestle those seams to each other. And it prevents them from moving by having a stitch in between. So I didn't cut the threads, I left them stitched together. So let's see if I can do this and make it work. All righty, here we go. All right. Okay. So I'm starting the patchwork program again. Also, if I put a tie off on there too, at the front, you know, at the beginning and the end, it would count that too. Here, let me see if I can sew with. And again, hit the reverse. And then it sets it, and there's 46 stitches for that. And then I would continue doing, now I don't know if this would be 46 or not, but you would just keep putting your two pieces in one right after another. And that's exactly how I did that. All right, let's see how I did. Oops. I've been known to do better. And you know how that goes. So let me show you one that I did. I sewed straight on. Like this. See, it lines it up perfect.
It's easy to get them off a little bit.
Yeah, especially when you're sewing at an angle.
It's true.
All righty, so that's the patchwork program. And now we're going to go on to this. We're going to do the exercise on this single stitch. All righty, and I guess I took it up. Here it is. So the exercise for the single stitch is, again, I know I had more, is a 6x6 piece of fabric with stabilizer behind it. And I'm going to turn off the projection so we don't get confused. There. Now you'll notice when you turn the projection on and off, it will dim the light. Whoops. So let's see. So I'm going to go back to the single stitch program and it wipes it out. I'm going to close that and I'm going to select stitch number 4228. I'm going to go into satin stitch. I'm going to go into 2 and 28. All right, now, if I continue to sew, I'm gonna break a needle. So I am going to switch to foot 2A, because I don't want to break a needle. Then I am going to thread the machine with polyester thread.
Excuse me.
Okay. As usual, I knew I wouldn't have enough time to talk too much. All righty. So based on the directions, and again, you can do this whenever you get an opportunity. I am going to change the density right here to 2 point, you could turn it to 0.2 or 0.3. I think I'll leave it at 3. I'm not going to change the width. I'm going to go into stitch repeat. And I am going to select 3 single stitches. 1, 2, 3. Okay. I am going to then select tie off at the beginning and the end. Then I am going to go over here to my stitch out. And we'll see how this goes. So I'm going to lower my presser foot. And I am going to start sewing. I put the needle down too. I'm just going to let the machine do the work. And should stop. After 3 repeats. Tie it off. Now I'm going to turn it like this. I'm going to turn off, I'm going to go back to the screen, and I'm going to turn off the tie-offs. I'll put it at the end. I turned off the one at the beginning. Then do you see this little toe right here? These are called the toes of the presser foot. I'm going to line up that toe right with the edge of that design. Let's see how it looks. I am going to guide it, that's all. I'm just going to make sure that I try and get it stitched out straight. I don't think it's doing what I wanted it to do. Pretty close. So now I'll cut it. So I created a whole new design. Isn't that awesome? Yeah, a little off, not bad. Now, how can you make it perfect? You can bring him into the embroidery side of the machine and it'll stitch out perfectly. But what I wanted to show you is this is as set by machine. Right here. So it's a little, see how it's kind of opened? And then this is a density of 0.03 or 0.3, and this is 0.2. And that lined up pretty good too. All right, So that's just an example of what you can do with stitch repeat. I've shown you a couple other things to do with it as well. Got
So
it?
when you were changing the density, is that what's taking away that center line?
Yep, it's filling in with stitches and making it, let's see if I can get it closer for you. Ooh, not that close. See, it filled it in. So it
Okay.
wasn't an open design like this. This is set by machine.
Okay.
Okay?
And the yellow one's filled in more than that, isn't it?
Right, because I used a different density. I used 0.2.
Oh,
So this one is as set by machine. Then I went down to 0.3 because the original density is 0.4. I should probably tell you that. So this one's
Okay.
0, this one's 0.4, this one's 0.3, and this one is 0.2. So what
Okay.
you can do is just pick one of those satin stitches and play with the density and get a comparison like I have here.
Okay.
Okay? And that can be, and that'll be for that activity. Okay.
Thank you.
All righty. Now, Sequence Creator. Now, with Sequence Creator, we did this this activity was on that create red, the black, red, and white creative tote that had a big zipper. That's what that was. And what I did is I'm going to show you how to do this on screen, following the directions. So I'm going to turn off the tie off. I'm going to turn off the stitch, close it, and then I'm going to select, I'm going to go to stitch number 3.1.25, right there. Okay, that's what we're going to work with. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into Sequence Creator. And I am not going to pick the alphabet. I'm going to pick the decorative stitches. I'm going to go into 3.1.25. There we go. And I have one sequence. That's what one sequence looks like. Then it says to duplicate it. To duplicate, you're going to go into Stitch Edit right here at the bottom. And this symbol right here is copy and paste or duplicate. Now I have another one. So I have two of them. What I'm going to do now, though, is I am going to select mirror image from top to bottom. And that's this one right here. And now I have a new stitch. So I'm going to then close this. And it rolls over, but you can see it's stitching one right after the other. So I have to go into single stitch program. And there's my one design. Now, while I'm in here in this design, I can actually change the length of those two because I put them together as one. And now I can make it as long as I want. And the directions say to make it 54. Okay. Then you're going to stitch out one sequence of that on your fabric. And this is just something to play with. So I'm going to stitch out one sequence. The best part about this is the machine will stop on its own. You don't have to worry about when to stop. Just have to guide your design. Whoa, that's a long one. Okay, I'm gonna cut it. All right, and then if I want to go back to the original 38, I think it was.
25.
It's 39?
It was 25.
No, the original length after I had made the sequence, I made the sequence longer. Now I shortened it up to 38. I'm gonna line this up. I'm gonna guess. Because at this point, what you're doing is designing.
Oh, okay.
And after you see how long each of them are, then you can put them together in a project. And I'll show you what, I'm pretty sure maybe it's possible Susan and Polly don't know the project I'm talking about, so I'll show it. Okay, then I'm gonna cut it. So there's the difference between 54 and then the 38. So this one is definitely
Big difference.
more, and then this one's kind of squished together. Okay, now let me show you. Let's see if I can find the new find a new share. And go down here to March. Okay. So I'm sharing my screen. Can you guys see that?
Oh, wow.
Yes.
That's
That's
so
nice.
what you see here is the longer sequence at 54, and then the smaller sequence that doesn't look like 38. That might have been 34. We brought this into the embroidery side from that satin stitch screen. This is a radiant stitch. This is a radiant stitch. This is triple ribbon. We used yarn, and then this is double, and we used ribbon, a double ribbon stitch. Now, let me show you the other side. There's the other side. And that was extra. We didn't do that in class. That's using Shape Creator and the mini designs and the fonts. Cool, huh?
Yes.
So that was a great class. I really enjoyed that. Last up is tapering. Now, let me show you tapering. Some of you guys take that tapering class?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. I did.
Yes.
Yes. All right. So let me share my screen again. And I'll go back to the journal cover. So here is the let me see if I can Where are we? Can you see it?
Uh-huh.
So what we did is we used 5 sequences of, this is one of those border stitches that I mentioned. And we tapered the beginning and the end, and then we counted 5 of them. And let's see if I can go back. There they are. So we stitched them on the fabric, and it stitched out one sequence and stopped. We stitched it out again and couched those yarns onto it. This we brought in and we used the tapering right to left. And this was a little frustrating because you had to get them all evened. And
Yeah.
not all
It
of
was
us,
very frustrating.
yeah, not all of us were happy with the results.
No.
But you could have done this too and brought it into the embroidery side and been much happier. And then we got those stitched out, and then we just ran that couching down the center. All right, now let me see if I can find some more pictures to share. I'm not sure, but you know, this one I found. You know, when you Google something and something pops up, this is what happened. I Googled tapering Pfaff stitches, and this is what, let's see if I can enlarge that.
Oh my.
Isn't that neat? Now,
Yeah.
That
have I
is
done
neat.
it? No,
Yeah.
I haven't done it. But what you see here is you see this, the repetition of what I did with the stitches earlier. I sewed down one side, turned around and went back up the other. This is so perfect that I'm fairly certain that this was all brought into the embroidery side.
It has to be.
Yeah.
Too perfect. And then they assigned colors to it so that it would sew out, I imagine, in the colors that they had selected. So that would be a wonderful activity, but I'm sure it would be really frustrating.
That looks like something Phil would do.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. Yeah. So what you're going to do is, I'm going to go back to my screen. Going to get a new screen and turn off stitch repeat. And where's my tapering sample? Here they are. Now, you also know that Sequence Creator is used for lettering, right? You saw a couple of my samples, correct, of where I used the alphabet.
Yes.
So, all right. Okay. So there we go. I don't want to look at that. We want to look at my screen. So as I said earlier, those borders are great for tapering, but whenever you go into a screen and you see this little symbol, that means that there are stitches in this screen that can be tapered. So if
So
I pick,
anytime that symbol is up.
yes,
Oh, okay.
there are stitches in this set that can be tapered. So when I tap that and I close this, that symbol is still up. So now
I have a question for you.
Yep.
Only when I pull up needle art, I only have three icons on the right-hand side, not that one that you told me to click on, this one here. You can't see it, but it's the third one
Wait,
down.
wait. Okay, wait a minute. Let's go back and do that. So you don't have 3.4?
I have 3.1 like you do. I have stitch number 5. Now I do. Okay, I
Okay.
missed the step. Sorry.
Okay, that's all right. I was getting a little panicky there.
Well, I was trying to figure out why I didn't have it.
That's okay, it's all good. All right, so now I tap the tapering screen. And let me just move this out of the way so you can see. And the taper is off. There's no tapering. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select tapering at 60 degrees for both of them. When you select multi, the top and the bottom taper the same. Let's try 90, see what it looks like. Not bad. 120. Ugh, awful. So if you want there's how she got that angle on that design. So let's go back to 60. All righty. Now, if you want to taper the top of one and not the bottom, then you turn off the one you don't want tapered. So I'm not going to taper the bottom. So now I have a totally different design and I can create something with that. However, if I want to go back to multi and see it's turned off because I'm manipulating the beginning and the end, I go back to 60 degrees center. Then I go into stitch repeat and I'm going to select, that's a little, I won't, not sure I'll have enough room. So what I want to show you how that works, because this is pretty cool, is you bring this over here. Ah, here comes thunder. That must be what you ladies had.
Yeah, we really got a rain out of it too.
You
Yeah.
did? Okay. So what I want to do is I am going to stitch this. Let me see if I can find another, I don't know. Let me try this. Okay, here we go. All righty. So I've got 4 repeats. Well, it's going to be close. I'll show you what I'm talking about. So now I turn it this way. And I am going to use those little marks to line it up. Better yet, I turn on the projection
Yes.
and now I'm going to turn off that second guide. Okay, now I can see it exactly how it sits and I should be able to line it up. Isn't that awesome? And it should end, I hope, before the raw edge. Oops. Oh, looks like I got an opening there. That's not right. This should be closed up, and it's not. On the screen, it looks like it's closed up, but actually sewing it out, it's not. All right, let's just finish our little block here. Now that means my balance needs to be adjusted. Oh well, for now it'll work. And then you would make one last turn and we'll see if it lines up. Right there, see if it matches right there.
Well, the first and the last on each one, oh, those aren't closed up.
No,
None of them are.
no, and it's closed up on the screen. Interesting.
I think you have 2 points like an arrow. Shouldn't one be going one direction and the other going the opposite for them to close up? So you would have to change the direction of
Totally.
yeah.
Yeah. I think what you're saying is if you changed the degrees that they taper.
Right, at the beginning and the end, they would have met up, or you would have switched instead of using multi, do beginning and set it one way and then set the end the opposite way.
Right, and so that's an excellent point. Because what you see is not always what you get.
Yeah.
So this is what I got, but on the screen, this is what it looks like.
Yeah, so you have 2 points at the end and I think you want to have one slanted, not come to a point, but slant.
Right, and so if I'm understanding you right, Polly, you would turn off multi
Yeah, you would go to beginning
and go to beginning and change the beginning.
and it would go one direction. So you could do
I'll try 9, what?
Yeah, and just do the one in the, no, do on the first row. Let's
Which
see.
one?
Try 60, try 60.
Yeah, that's what I had was 60.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah.
Or try that 45. You see how 45 are going in different
Right.
directions?
Right,
Well,
so
there's
what?
a 60 going in a different direction also.
Okay, and then go to end and choose the opposite.
Right,
So,
and so then when you go here, then you
Change
choose this one.
yeah. and then-
That wasn't the look that she was wanting though.
Yeah,
What I wanted was a block like this, and I'm wondering why there's a space between these.
Well, you
Yeah.
notice each one of them has a space there.
I know,
So
it's
it's
almost
not
like,
like it just did it in the corners.
right,
Yeah.
and this, actually, this is the first time I've ever used this design, so I wasn't prepared for that, differences between the screen and the machine.
yeah, I see that.
Huh.
So what I wanted to show you that you could do is just play. Here's one that let me back up. See, here's one where I just played with the different angles and wrote down the stitches. So this one's 30 degrees to the right. And I think this is what you were talking about, Polly, is just mixing them up.
Mhm.
And then this is another one. This doesn't show up as much, but this is another stitch, just playing with it. And then this is that one of those borders that tapers up just beautifully. Look at that border stitch. Isn't that gorgeous?
That is.
Yeah.
And then what I did here is I just created a sample for, let me take off the ones in the back because they're,
Okay.
see, so what I did here is I played with going down the different sides. When I went down one side, it formed a box like this. And then when I started here, it formed a totally different box.
Okay.
So, and then this Greek key is something we used to taper all the time. And what I did was I played around with the difference here. Here's another version of that Greek key. And I played around with the different ending and ended up with what looks like an arrow.
Okay.
So it's just something, and this is using Sequence Creator for lettering, and that you can't see, but that this is an eye. It's just I didn't cut the jump stitches. And then you can use and do 3. This is an entre-deux stitch without I don't think it no, with just a regular 90 needle.
Okay.
And you can create a triangle by doing the 3 sides like that.
Nice.
So turn on your creative juices. Are you still there? Are you still here, ladies?
That was right there.
Where?
Right there.